In the previous lecture, you have seen that our UI gets a zip code and it needs to get the weather for it, but the weather finder itself requires a city. So instead of doing all that conversions from zip code to a city inside our weather UI, we do that inside a adapter class. Right click on the package, new class, call it weather adapter, finish. It will have a method called public int find temperature or find weather. It will take a integer parameter, which is zip code. Instead of string city, it is taking an integer parameter and it will return back the temperature. So add a return statement. Hit Control 1, add a return statement. We'll change that return in a second. String city is equal to null. The very first step we need to do is to look up for the appropriate city for the given zip code. Typically, we would do it from a database or a XML file. We are not going to do all that here. We will hard code it. Zip code double equal to say 19406. One of my favorite cities in the USA. City is equal to King of Prussia or King of Prussia. It is a Philadelphia suburb where I lived for 7 years. It's a beautiful city. Once we get the city, now it's easy to find the weather for the city using weather finder. Finder is equal to new weather finder impl. New weather finder impl finder dot find, pass in the city, we get the temperature back. So we have looked up the city for the zip code. In this case, we have hard coded it instead of going against the database. And then we have passed the city to the finder method or the find method on the weather finder implementation. And this will return a value back. Hit Control 1, assign statement to a new local variable, call it temperature and return that temperature back. Format the code, remove any unwanted lines. So in this lecture, you have successfully implemented the adapter pattern by creating an adapter class, the find method, which will take a zip code. We will do the conversion from zip code to city inside the adapter method, and then you have invoked the appropriate method on the weather finder impl. Now go back to the weather UI. Instead of using the weather finder, now our weather UI will use the adapter class. So weather adapter is equal to new weather adapter dot find temperature, pass in the zip code, we will get the temperature back, do a sysout on that. Simply display the temperature that comes back. Pass in the zip code as 19406. If you pass in any other zip code, we'll not get appropriate response back because here we are looking up only for 19406. You can create a test class or simply add a main method in the UI itself. And to invoke this method, we need a weather UI is equal to new weather UI dot show temperature, pass in the zip code 19406, and then you can remove the hard coded piece here. Simply pass in the zip code whatever comes to this method. Let's run it. Right click, do a run as Java application, and we get the temperature back, which is 33, whatever we are returning from our weather finder impl. So in this lecture, you have completely seen the adapter pattern in action. The weather adapter is the one which converts a zip code to a city and invokes the appropriate method. The weather UI, instead of using the weather finder classes directly, it uses the weather adapter. So in the future, if some other mapping needs to happen, we can simply change the weather adapter and we need not change our UI.